Jackrabbit, which basically is a larger running company that buys up local running shops, but also has a really awesome website and a ton of online stuff. So we got giveaways. I'm going to talk about next week too, because I've got another sweet guest. I've got also some sweet guests in the hopper. I'm going to take your questions if you've got them. And then what's going to happen today, which is super special, I'll give a little personal update to start. So I'm going to, I think, start a new thing where I'm just going to hit on kind of the highlight and the low light of the week. I would say the highlight of this past week was my family visiting. My sister came. We went to a dude ranch, which is where I taped from last week, which was hilarious. If you didn't watch it, you should. I was able to get on a horse and relax by a pool. I was able to take my family on a fly fishing trip, which was epic and something I will never forget, and just spend a lot of awesome quality time with my family. I posted about it on Instagram last week. So that was definitely the highlight, was my family's visit, getting to spend quality time with my family who flew in from Philadelphia and New York. I would say the low light of the last week was probably finding out a little bit more about timeline. It's really kind of up in the air as to what my prognosis is, because I just started chemo 3 weeks ago, and we have to wait until our first scan to see in October if the chemo's working. Now, if treatment's working, it could be years until anything progresses, which is super awesome. If the treatment doesn't work, however, or if I stopped treatment today, it would be 6 months or less for me to live. And that was confirmed in an email this morning. So that's kind of tough. I mean, the reality is, though, I'm in treatment, and we have a lot of options. And if chemo doesn't work, we move on to other stuff. And I have a fantastic medical team. But I would be lying if I didn't say that recognizing how aggressive my cancer is, and the fact that it is in my chest, that was really tough this week. So it was a tough week. I wrote a blog post about how to sort of find a way to manage both acceptance of my situation, but then also have hope. And I was really, I think, vulnerable in that blog post. So feel free to check that out at notimetowasteproject.com/blog. So yeah, and coming up, I'm going to bring Jacky on in just a second, but coming up for me, if anybody is interested, we're going to say goodbye to this freaking ponytail today that I sadly have been working on really hard for like 1.5 years since I finished chemo the last time. I finally got to here with a ponytail, and my scalp is hurting and my hair is starting to fall out. So unlike the first time 2 years ago, I am gonna not wait, and I'm gonna take the power in my own hands, and I am going to buzz my hair today, G.I. Jane style. I'm going to do it on Instagram Live because I don't give a fuck. And I would have loved to have seen someone else go through that when I went through it the first time. So if you're interested in watching me get my head shaved, that's going to happen in about an hour after the show. So pretty cool, huh? You'll also get to see, if you tune in, what my scar looks like from brain surgery, and how I basically look like Bozo on the top of my head with no hair from the radiation. All right, so without further ado, I'm super, super excited. I basically saw this woman's story months ago. I want to say it was like in the fall, where I saw this photo of a woman that showed kind of a before and after. And she said, 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer and my leg was amputated. And then here I am today with a blade. I am a professional ultra runner. And I was just completely blown away by this side-by-side photo. And I was like, I gotta talk to her. And I reached out and I did a little profile of Jacky on No Time to Waste back in the fall. And luckily I was able to reach out to her recently and say, hey, I'm doing this weekly show and like, I would love to talk to you and find out, how do you go from there to here? How do you get a diagnosis like that? And I know it was a long time ago, but how do you get that diagnosis and then go, I'm going to keep moving, and I'm going to do some things that people don't recommend, which is don't run trails with a blade. And she said kind of, I'm going to do it anyway. She has a fantastic spirit, an incredible story. And most recently in April, she ended up basically setting a world record for the only amputee to run 100 miles on a treadmill. Okay, if anybody runs that's listening right now, you know that the treadmill, aka the dreadmill, is the worst. And like, I don't want to be on a treadmill for like longer than a half hour with nothing to do. She was on a treadmill for nearly 24 hours straight and running with a blade, one leg and a blade. It's baffling. So I'm super excited. I'm going to bring her on right now. So Jacky, if you request to join, I am going to bring you on in 1 second. And while we're waiting for Jacky, definitely we should have some time for questions. So please come up with some questions. I just need to figure out how to bring her on. Jacky, you should see something that says request to join. And let's see. There we go. Her Instagram handle is NCRunner Jacky. Her name is pronounced Jacky Hunt-Broersma. I was very proud that I did that. Yes, I got it. I got it right? Jacky Hunt-Broersma. Welcome to the No Time to Waste live show.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, as I said, I hope I didn't butcher your introduction. I also want to mention, Jacky is not just an amateur runner like many of us who are like mid-packers and just like excited to finish. She is a professional ultra runner now, sponsored by amazing brands like Ultimate Direction, Ultra Running, Run Rabbit, and Sunto Elite. So I mean, blade or no blade, like this is a badass runner. So welcome to the show.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. So the first thing I was going to ask, and I just mentioned this, like it was 20 years ago, right, that you were diagnosed with cancer and you lost your leg. And I know that's a long time ago. If someone was asking me about what I was doing when I was 20, I'd be like, do we really have to talk about that? But if you would just do me the favor and share with me what it was like to get that diagnosis at that time.
It's weird because even though it was 20 years ago, that day I remember like it was yesterday. It is the weirdest feeling, and you probably know, you'll know exactly what I mean. And I remember I went in for surgery because I had a lump in my leg, which they removed, and I didn't think anything of it. But after the surgery, they said, well, if we ring you in 2 days, the answer isn't good. If we haven't rung you in 2 days, then you're fine. And of course, the day after the surgery, they rung me. The phone rang and it was the doctor. And I was like, oh, this can't be good. And they said to me over the phone, they said, well, we can't give you your results over the phone. You have to actually come in. And we would recommend you bring someone with you. Yeah. So you get told that and you're like, okay, bring someone with me. This is not going to be good, is it? So we went to the hospital, and I had my appointment. And when I walked into the doctor's surgery, he was there. He had a priest with him, and he had a nurse. And they were like, well, you need to sit down because we have your results. And I was like, I looked at these three people sitting here, and I'm like, okay, this is a little scary, and this isn't going to be exactly what I was thinking it was going to be. Because I went and I was like, I kind of didn't think of the C word. I didn't think it would be cancer. And I don't know, you just kind of carry on with your life. I mean, I was young and I was like, oh yeah, this always happens to everyone else. This doesn't happen to me. Things like this you hear stories of people having cancer. And they gave me the diagnosis, and I kind of I don't know, I just kind of went into survival mode, and it is the weirdest feeling because you go into shock, and then you kind of go into denial, because I was like, yeah, no, this isn't happening, this isn't real, this isn't. And I kind of walked out, and I stood in the parking lot, and I don't know, I was just a little bit dazed. And my husband said to me, he's like, because I'd actually taken time out of work to go to the appointment, and he was like, do you want to go back to are you going to go back to the office, or are you going home? And I'm like, I just want to go home. I just want to go to the office. I'm like, this isn't happening. I don't want to think about it. I want to go straight back to the office. And I went, and I kind of carried on with my job, and I just didn't think about it. But obviously then the reality was I had to kind of think of the next step. So I obviously had to go see a specialist, and who then would break more news, because I just assumed I was going to do chemo. That was it. I'm going down the chemo route. And then this will be out of my system and I'll be fine. But obviously then the next step in your journey is you start Googling everything, which is like, don't do that.
Terrible idea. It's the worst idea ever.
I know, it's like the worst thing ever. And you think, okay, this is it. I'm doomed. I'm done. And it's just, you've got so many emotions going on, and part of you just wants to ignore everything, and you just want to kind of for me, it was just survival. That's it. I just want to survive, and I don't want to be thinking about it. And so the next step for me was I went into the surgeon. I had to go see a specialist. And we walked in, and I was like, hey, he was going to tell me I need to go for chemo, and amputation was never in my mind. I didn't think that was even going to be an option. It was like, I just never thought of that. And he sat me down, and the first thing he said to me, he's like, where your tumor is on your leg, the only option is amputation. And that was it. He was like, you don't have any other choice. And I just looked at him, and I was like, what? And it was, and at the time,
like, what is like, whose life is this?
Yeah, and it's like as if I left my body, and I was like looking down at myself and thinking, yeah, this is just the weirdest like sensation. And then you go through this whole, again, all these emotions and things, and everything moved really quickly. Now, I went from biopsy, and I went to leg amputation within about 4 weeks. So I didn't have much time to kind of think. When I went into the surgeon's office, it was literally a week from that appointment to having my leg amputated. I had to go for a whole bunch of scans, like bone scans, a whole bunch of MRIs and everything, just to make sure, to check if the cancer had spread.
Right.
So you have all these emotions and things. So I didn't have time to kind of think about the amputation. I was like thinking next steps. It's like, oh my goodness, has this actually spread? Because I had Ewing sarcoma, which is very rare. And if it spreads straight to your lungs. It doesn't go anywhere, I don't know, like randomly, it just goes straight to your lungs. And so that was the next thing. They were like, well, there's a possibility it's gone to your lungs. So you have to deal with the fact you're losing your leg, and then deal with the fact that this is going to be spreading and all that. And so thank goodness for me, I was one of the lucky ones. It hadn't spread. And so a week later, I was just scheduled for surgery, and then had my leg amputated. And it was a whirlwind, but I kind of went through a whole phase again where I just wanted to be normal, and I was back at work within 6 weeks of my surgery, because I didn't want to be an amputee. I didn't want to have cancer. I just wanted to ignore everything and just get on with my life. And that's kind of, sorry, I'm kind of like just chatting.
I get all of this. I get all of it. You're describing what I went through 2 years ago, when I basically was like, I'm going to continue working full time, and I'm just going to, I want this to be as smallest part of my life as possible. Okay. And I hit it. And it's different now, because now what you're describing is hitting close to home, because I'm going through that same stuff again. Yeah. So, okay. So you face the fact that you're going to have your leg amputated. It's surreal, I'm sure. So after you get your leg amputated, what was that period like? And, you know, I just talked to you right now. A lot of people would look at your accomplishments because, again, adaptive athlete or amputee or not, your accomplishments as a runner are incredibly, incredibly impressive. And I would assume that most people would look at you and go, well, obviously she's been an athlete her whole life. She's been a runner her whole life. I bet she loved running. And then of course, when her leg was amputated, it was like, well, this isn't going to stop me. But tell me about how you even got into running after your leg was amputated. Like, how did we get here?
That's a funny story because I was the kid at school that would hide in the bathroom when we used to have track days because I hated running that much. I was like, why would anyone do this? It's just hard work. I'm sweaty and I'm like, I just don't want to do it. And it's weird. Like when I became an amputee, there were so many things that people said you can't do. But then you kind of get an instinct where you say, well, why not? I want to give it a try and I want to keep doing it. And when I mean, prosthetics has kind of come a long way since 20 years ago. And so running was never, and because I didn't enjoy running and I never tried running, I didn't think of doing running as an amputee. And it was only like, I've been running now for 4 years. So it probably be about 5. Yeah.
Okay, well, you have like some serious, this is God-given talent then, because most people don't just pick up running and then start running 5Ks and then start running marathons and then start running ultras and then get sponsored and like then win races. So, okay.
I'm crazy that way. I kind of am a bit stubborn. So, and I do wish, my only regret is not starting this a lot earlier because I'm like, if I'd started a lot earlier, I don't know where I'd be right now. But it's been a fun journey because how I started with the running is my husband is a runner. And he was always out running. And I was like, and we'd go to his races and I would stand there and I'd watch these people crossing these finish lines. And I'm like, why would you do this to yourself? And for a medal? Serious, genuinely. That's what I thought.
Yeah, and they're usually super janky. They're like not even nice. I think about the
and I'm like, you paid for this. Why are you paying for this? But then watching him, he'd be so excited about it and this achievement and just the enthusiasm of it. So I thought, well, I want to give it a try. Let me see what happens. And the first time I tried it, I actually signed up, and obviously in my typical style, which I seem to do with everything, is I signed up for a race. I was like, oh yeah, let's see. I mean, how hard can it be running on a prosthetic and doing a 5K? I hadn't trained anything or anything like that. And I showed up at the race on a walking prosthetic, which is not designed for running at all. It is a pain to kind of try and move. Right. And I think I managed probably in the whole 5K, I probably managed about a mile of running and across the finish line. I was like, yeah, that was horrible. I'm like, I don't understand it. I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it. But it was niggling at me and I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And then obviously I started researching prosthetics and things like that. And we decided we were going to go down the route. But the thing is, prosthetics is expensive. I mean, my first blade was $11,000. Yeah.
And that was a prosthetic leg, not a blade?
It is a prosthetic, yeah. And it's not like buying a pair of shoes where you say, oh yeah, no, I'm going to spend $200 on the shoes. And if I don't like running, well, I'm going to quit. I'm like, this was $11,000. So I'm like, yeah, I have to kind of really like this to kind of do it. But I really wanted to. And it was like something about being told you can't and being such a hard thing to try and get into. And the first time I put my blade on, it felt like I was flying. I fell in love with it. It was just, and literally the way they test when you get your first running blade is you just run like loops around in a parking lot. So you don't go far. I mean, you're just going up and down. But it was the best experience ever. So I fell in love with it. And then I immediately signed up. I actually signed up for a 5K cross-country race. And the prosthesist who actually made the prosthetic, it was on a test socket. And he was like, I want you to take the test socket home, but don't do anything crazy. Just run up and down your street and things because we're not sure it will break because it's a test socket. I'm like, so I signed up for this race and I told everyone, like, you haven't seen me. I'm not at this race. You don't know that I'm actually running this race. And that's kind of how it started. And yeah, and then I did a 5K and then I thought, well, I want to push the limits. So then I signed up for a 10K. But the day before the 10K race, I changed my mind and said, well, I want to try the half marathon. So I switched distances and I survived. And then I kind of just gradually kind of got pushed limits and things like that. And then I hit a bit of a wall with road running, and I kind of wanted to do a little bit more, and someone recommended doing trail running, and I spoke to a few people and everyone was saying, no, you can't do trail running on a blade because you'll fall. What happens if you fall? You're going to break something. No, they're not designed, because the running blades are designed for road. That's kind of where they're the best. And so that's what happened, and I went out.
So they said, don't run on trails on your blade. And you were like, okay. And then you're like,
I thought I'd give it a try. And I loved it. I fell in love with it. Yes, I did fall a few times, but that was not the fault of the blade. It was more because I wasn't paying attention. And I did the classic of talking to someone and then wiping out on the trail, falling flat on my face. And so it's been, and it's been fun watching and pushing boundaries, and just, when people say you can't do it, I'm like, well, why not? Let's give it a try and see what happens. So I've taken on some really brutal trail races, and it's been fun. I mean, some of them I've kind of been halfway and thought, what have I taken on? Why have I done this? But it's all part of it's a great experience.
What's one of your most memorable trail races of late, even though you've only been doing it for like a minute?
It's got to be ALQ 50K. It was one of the.
Is that this one?
No, that was Trans-Rockies, actually. I love Trans-Rockies.
I mean, guys, look at this. Like, what? It's like, people can't do this shit with 2 legs, Jacky.
That was insane, Trans-Rockies. I mean, it was a stage race, but that was climbing Hope Pass. And it was the best experience. And then obviously coming, because I live in Cary, we don't have
North Carolina, for anybody.
Yeah, North Carolina. So, and it's pretty flat. So going out to Trans-Rockies was really hilly and altitude and all that. So that was quite a challenge.
I just can't even. I'm looking for the photo that basically introduced me to you. That here it is. That this is what I was talking about in the beginning, right? Yeah. That you wrote this post that just spoke to me, that was all about kind of where you came from and where you are now, and how incredible is this? That was 20 years ago.
Thank you.
That's a freaking transformation. I want to make sure I hit on the accomplishment from April.
Yeah.
Where you are now. We are speaking to not only a professional ultra runner, amputee adaptive athlete, but we're also speaking to a world record holder. Woo-hoo! So back in April, you took on the task of, welcome to the land of virtual racing in 2020, right? Where most events are canceled. I just completed the Leadville 100K Vert Challenge. So that was my race of the summer. But you entered a virtual race and decided to do 100 miles, because it was a 100-mile ultra, and you did it on the treadmill.
I did, yes. How it went, because I was due to run a 100-miler, and that was cancelled. So then I signed up for a vert, and I was like, well, this will give me the kind of motivation to do 100. And at the time, it was like we were at a stay-at-home order, and I thought I was originally going to just do laps around my neighborhood, but then it kind of got.
I don't know what's worse.
I know, that's what I was trying to figure out. What would be worse? But it was like trying to avoid people and things, and it just kind of felt like it was getting more complicated. So I thought, well, and then I researched and I found out there hasn't ever been an amputee that's actually done 100 miles in one go on the treadmill. So I was like, well, why not? Let's give it a try and see what happens. And and that's kind of how I literally decided the Wednesday that I was going to run it on the Friday. So it was kind of a little bit last minute, and
You're crazy, man. You're crazy. Your husband must be like, You're so great. Like, what do I do with you?
It's always saying like, oh, here she goes again. And yeah,
It's
but
crazy.
it was a good experience. I wouldn't recommend running 100 on a treadmill.
Yeah, it sounds terrible. Sounds terrible. And I love that you also said that you wish that like wasn't the photo that got
Yeah.
circulated. You're like, that was like the crappiest photo that was like right after. But
yeah, my husband's photo. I was like, really?
yeah, and the headline is, you know, this amputee woman just ran 100 miles on her treadmill in under 24 hours. So, I mean, I have to say, you are a bit of a horse of a different color. You're exactly the kind of people that I like to bring on this show. You know, you are clearly someone that doesn't take, you interpret rules the way you'd like. And someone says no, you have that instinct to go, don't tell me what to do. Let me make my own decisions. And that kind of challenger mindset is definitely something that I have as well. And then, you know, the grit and resilience to find joy in the pain and find fun in the slog of training and in the race is something that means, you know, obviously you're sort of built with that resilience and your grit. You know, I talk about No Time to Waste, you know, that it's about, you know, confronting the fact that life is short for all of us. And it's really critical that we really maximize our moments and craft a life without regret while we're here. And the things that I talk about a lot are gratitude, connection, be it to whatever your faith is, to the people in your life that you love, to nature and the outdoors, and then joy. So of those things, when I think about gratitude, connection, and joy, what's the one that kind of stands out to you that you feel like really resonates?
Definitely gratitude. I just feel I'm grateful for being here. I'm grateful for what I've gone through because it's made me a better person. And it's just grateful that I can do what I can do, and like that I am able to run. I'm able to have the ability, and that I'm and obviously when you've gone through something like this, you learn not to take anything for granted. So you kind of just live every day as it will be your last, and because you just never know, and in an instant life can change.
Yeah, we both know that, right? Really intimately. And then, you know, how do you live today every day like there's no time to waste? What are some of the things that you make sure you like to do or check off in that 24 hours?
I just try to have fun with everything and just not take myself too serious, and just enjoy the little things.
Yeah. Do you have someone just asked a question? Do you have a mantra? Do you have any sort of saying or mantra that you kind of fall back on?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. It's normally, I mean, everything's always about my running and things like that. So it's always, I never give up. I just keep going no matter how hard it gets. I always, when I'm speaking to anyone else that's going through a tough time, I'm like, and there's always hope. Just hope and never give up. Just keep moving forward.
Yeah. All right. And we're going to wrap things up in our conversation, we're going to start a new thing here on No Time to Waste. We're going to do No Time to Waste rapid fire. So I'm going to ask you these questions. Don't overthink it. Okay. There is no right or wrong answer. Do not be nervous. And okay.
I am nervous for this one.
What?
I am nervous for this one.
You should not. It's just 5 questions. Start easy. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Breakfast.
Oh, me too. I'm a big breakfast person.
Yeah.
One place you want to travel to?
Oh, one place I want to travel to. Hawaii.
Hawaii. Have you been there before?
Nope.
Oh, it's amazing. Except if you're from the East Coast, I lived in California for 18 years. It's so easy to get to Hawaii from
but from here it's a nightmare.
It's a huge deal. But I have to say it's worth it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
The last person you said I love you to?
My 7-year-old.
One proud achievement that you think about that comes into your head?
My 100-miler on the treadmill.
Yeah. And last thing, I told you these are easy. something that brings you joy.
Watching my kids smiling and being happy, and yeah, just my kiddos.
Awesome.
They bring me loads of joy.
Awesome. See, that wasn't hard. Was that hard?
Oh, easy actually.
Ah, that was pretty easy. So anyway, you are, for those that don't know, Jacky is like blowing up right now. She was just featured in Trail Runner magazine. A lot of media requests, a lot of press requests. I so appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, and I'm so excited to get to share you with our community here at No Time to Waste. So thank you so much for taking the time and saying yes to this.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So that's Jacky. Thanks to her sponsors as well: Ultimate Direction, Ultra Running, Run Rabbit, and Sunto Elite. You are a freaking warrior, a No Time to Waste legend, and keep crushing it, Jacky.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
So, what a beast, man. She's awesome. And she has an accent. Again, I've been looking for somebody with an accent, and boom, checked off all the boxes. So, one thing that I want to do right now is we're going to do a giveaway. Super exciting for anybody that's still hanging on. Amazing Spirit. Yep, I agree. So, we've got, and I'll be shipping it out today, a $100 gift card to Jackrabbit, which if you go online, it's a fantastic place to buy a bunch of running gear. We've also got, if you saw that I interviewed Jeannie Lucrezi, who is the founder of Trail Sisters last week. This is a coveted brand new Trail Sisters Team Crusher hat. It's the cool one that you can flip up the bill, and it's not your average hat. So we got these things that are, and of course you're gonna get, No Time to Waste. So these are going out today, and you're also going to get a No Time to Waste sticker, coveted. Can't see it because it's flipped. So what I'm going to do today for our giveaway is the first person to put in the hashtag No Time to Waste is going to win today. So the first person to put in hashtag No Time to Waste is going to get a $100 gift card to Jackrabbit, buy some running gear online, and a Trail Sisters Crusher hat. Who do we have? You cannot have previously won. We've got Murph. There it is. No, that's a lie. Murph, you put in No Time to Waste project. The answer is No Time to Waste. Jessica Kemper. Jessica Kemper is the winner for this week. Jessica, congratulations. She's the first person that put in hashtag No Time to Waste that didn't previously win a giveaway, Jenny. Jessica, make sure you send me a direct message and I will get that shipped out to you. Because remember, on the No Time to Waste live show every week, there's always free shit. Next week, we're going to be giving away a $150 Rudy Project multi-sport backpack. If you're a triathlete, if you like to cycle, if, I don't know, you want to wear a really intense backpack to like the gym, this is the backpack for you. We're going to be giving that away next week. Next week I have, ironically, another adaptive athlete, another amputee, Roderick Sewell. He is the first, and I read about him in October of last year. Roderick is the first double above the knee amputee to complete the Ironman World Championships in Kona. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. So he's running on 2 blades. But he's not only just running, he is running a marathon, he is riding his bike, and he is swimming. Like, this guy. I mean, crazy story. So excited to bring him on next week. Excited to give away that $150 Rudy Project backpack. Super excited. Hope you guys like the new time. We're going to stick to this time slot. If you're hanging out in probably about 20 minutes, I'm going to be heading downstairs in my house, and I'm going to get my head shaved like G.I. Jane. So if you're bored or you want something to distract you while you are on a Zoom meeting for work, tune in because I'm going to be going live in another 20 minutes. Thank you guys for being here. Hope the show is super fun for those of you that are watching. And thank you again to Jacky Hunt-Broersma, who was kind enough to spend a half hour with us today. All right, guys, live and love.